Hi everybody, Mike Brown back with you again with another lesson in Adobe Photoshop Elements 11 from Educator.com. In this lesson we're going to look at a very cool feature in Photoshop Elements, and it's called the Photomerge feature. It's under the Enhance drop-down menu at the bottom, and you have different types of Photomerge. The most popular Photomerge is panoramas, and then we have group shots and scene cleaners, which are the same but opposite. If you take a scene and it has an intruding object, say it's a monument somewhere and somebody walks into the scene, and then you take another one and there's somebody over here, and you take a third one and there's somebody still in the wrong place. You've got people in different spots, but you can't get the perfect shot. You can take the group shot and tell the computer which objects to add or subtract from the scene to make the final scene perfect. The scene cleaner, group shot, you're adding pieces. Scene cleaner, predominantly you're taking them away, basically the same. Then we have panoramas, which is an extremely popular method of shooting these days, where you shoot a sequence of shots that takes in a wider range than you can actually get with your camera, and we stitch them together in the computer to make a singular, beautiful panorama. Then the fourth one is shooting exactly the same shot for exposure. If you're shooting it on a bright day and you've got bright highlights and dark shadows and midtones, you shoot a range of exposures, underexposed, right on, and overexposed, so that you have good exposures for all three, highlights, midtones, and shadows. And each one of those is going to be right for one part, but not for all. In Photomerge, you put the three of them together and it merges them by exposure rather than by object or content. And Style Match is a really fun feature that we'll close this lesson out with, showing you how you can play with and come up with some creative ways of making your own cool looks very easily. So let's talk first about panoramas, which are really an extremely popular thing. And first off, I want to talk to you about some 4 tips to make sure you get your images correct for the program to align and blend, or stitch as we call it. Now the first thing, here's a camera, and hold the camera steady without any change of tilt or rotation relative to the horizon for each shot. You're shooting a series of photos that run in an arc. You want to make sure that the camera stays level throughout that arc. You don't want to have it tilted like you see here, and then the next shot the other way, and the third shot, and so that they're kind of haphazard. You want to make sure that the arc is smooth. Ideally, you'd put your camera right on a tripod, and it would stay perfectly level, and it would do nothing but rotate around itself, and all shots would line up perfectly. If you don't have that option, I'll show you a couple of ways to do it in just a moment. So what you want to do, first off, is hold that camera steady. The second one is you want to overlap each image in the sequence by between 20 and 50%. This is so that the computer has enough points of reference from each overlapping photo that it's easily able to align and stitch it. Let me show you a couple of examples just to talk to you about exactly what I'm referring to. And here I'll just open these 2 images right here. These are 2 of a series of 6 in the pano. This is the very center image with this sailboat, and if you'll notice, at the right side of this image, just past this post, is the tail end of this blue boat, which you see right over here. You can also see this boat, you can see objects, you can see just the shadow and the edge of the pillar. Notice, if I move this over, there's the overlap right there, and you see how much I gave it, so that the computer can see this reference point, it can see the end of the boat, it can see this blue boat back at here, it can see the stack. It has all sorts of points from a good amount of overlap, probably about 1/3 of the image, which is somewhere in between the 20 and 50. That's the way you want to do it. Overlap your images so that you get the sequence, can all be overlaid easily. Use the same exposure for each image if you can. If you're shooting on auto, that's just the way it's going to have to go. Ideally, you don't want to change your exposure so that when the images overlap, not only do the objects overlap for alignment, the exposures blend easily rather than having a dark image and a light image overlap and have the computer try to do that. Ideally, you'd put it on manual. Otherwise, do the best you can. Use the same exposure.